Hi there, everybody. This is Carrie Hamblen, the CEO and president of the Las Cruces Green Chamber of Commerce, coming to you again with another one of our Zoom chats. These are benefits for our Green Chamber members, and it's a really great opportunity for us to be able to uplift our members. And this one's been long brewing. We've been working on trying to get this done, but I am so glad to have Chris Schaefer, the owner and founder of Dry Point Distillers. Chris, it is so lovely to see your face. How are you doing?
Thanks. I'm doing great. Yeah, so happy to be chatting with you.
That's I still remember when you were starting to talk about it, and really the early days of Dry Point, and
Mhm.
just how much and how far the distilleries come. And it's really an effort of love for you. So, can you kind of tell us how you came up with Dry Point Distillers and really to open it up? Because that's a building that I think your father owns, right? Because
Right.
your father's, which is my doctor's office, is
Sure.
right next door.
Yeah, so it started I think it probably around 2015. I had just gotten done with a couple, 4 years in the Forest Service and was happily unemployed and just a hobby between me and my dad trying to make whiskey. And that sort of snowballed into getting bigger stills and getting more interested in fermentation and distillation and tons of experimentation with different fruits and vegetables and things that we could ferment and turn into booze. And so it kind of continued on growing bigger and bigger. And then we looked at licensing, on the federal and the state level, and it wasn't too intimidating. And so we decided to give it a go. And we had a building space, like you said, in this little plaza off of Avenida de Mesilla in Mesilla. And it was dirt floor and just a shell of a building. So sort of a blank slate for all of our plumbing and electrical needs. And it kind of just took off from there. And we're, I think, 6 years deep now.
Yeah.
And it's kind of taken on a life of its own. I'm scrambling just to keep up.
That's kind of like that's a good place to be in for
Yeah.
what you do, because it's really you've added to one of the things when you first started was like making sure that there was food there,
Mhm.
and so food trucks and now you've got food on the regular there.
Sure. Yeah.
And so, but also entertainment, because our mutual friend has played right in front of that backdrop there that's right
Oh,
behind
yeah.
you.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it started, the initial idea of the business was just going to be wholesale. And so, we didn't choose the best location for a bar. We're kind of tucked away and a little bit hidden, which has been a challenge to overcome, still to this day. But when we decided to open up the little retail space in the front, it was just going to be a couple cocktails. And then that turned into about 15 cocktails when we opened, and it was a really small space. And then right before the pandemic, we knocked down a wall and took over this other suite here in this little office plaza. And now we have a kitchen, we've got live music, we've got trivia games, and a massive cocktail list plus beer. And we just added some frozen a frozen cocktail machine, which I'm pretty excited about.
No.
So yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah,
dangerous.
yeah.
Oh,
This is only going to be I think, our third weekend. We're still kind of troubleshooting some recipes because that machine's pretty tricky. But I think we've got some really good ones. Very promising future this summer of frozen
oh,
cocktails.
oh my gosh. Can I suggest something that is an orange creamsicle flavored?
Oh yeah, we've thought of that
Mm. Oh,
for
okay.
sure.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be people lining up if you want to have tasters.
Uh-huh.
That's always a good thing. Well, I mean, you've talked about like adding to it, and I still remember like when you first opened the menu and how you had just like a handful of specific
Mhm.
drinks for your liquor and your spirits, and now like because don't you have a partnership with NMSU as well?
We do, yeah. So during the pandemic, when all hospitality was shuttered and all sports were on hold, Mario Mocha, the past athletic director, approached me about doing a licensed whiskey for NMSU. So we released the Pistol Pete six shooter rye whiskey, which was the first collegiately sponsored spirit in the country. So that was just I mean, it was a real lifeline for my business,
Yeah.
helping increase some sales on the wholesale, the distribution side when we couldn't be open for bar service. And it also, through this partnership, a percentage of my sales go back to supporting the 400 plus student athletes at NMSU at a time when they weren't selling tickets to games and they weren't
Yeah.
playing, so they needed some alternative revenue stream. So it was a real win-win-win scenario, where the customer got a good whiskey, and NMSU and myself were able to generate some revenue during a pretty tough time during the
Yeah.
pandemic. So
Yeah.
it's kind of, yeah, it's taken off. As far as my spirit lineup goes, I think I've got 11 different products on the shelf right now, which is a lot, but I made some good connections with New Mexico or Mexican distilleries. So I'm importing spirits from Mexico, and that's just opened a whole new can of worms as far as, different
Yeah.
products that we bring in. So I'm pretty excited about that as well.
Well, and I can imagine that your cocktail creations, the tastings, are always quite entertaining when
Oh yeah,
you're
absolutely.
yeah. And it's been so great to watch kind of this evolution of what you're doing, and especially since you're local and you're making your own spirits, and then just these opportunities that you're creating. I mean, I think that's really the sign of a well thought out business when you adapt, because that is what we saw during the pandemic is businesses
Yeah.
thrived when they were able to adapt. Um,
Yeah.
and as we finish up, speaking of adapting, you're renovating the bar. So can you tell us about what you're doing and how that's going to change things for what you're
Yeah.
doing?
I'm pretty excited about these renovations. So when I first built the bar space out, I had never worked behind a bar myself. So I built, all of the bar top and the back bar where the bartenders work, just out of a guess as to what would be the most efficient and easy way to operate. And over the last
Mhm.
6 years, we've realized that we could work a lot more efficiently. So if I just reorganize some of the back bar, so a lot of that, a lot of our renovations are going to be kind of benefiting my bartenders, primarily with new back bar space. But because we're going to be closing for a weekend, to do that, I'm going to take the opportunity to kind of rejudge the whole bar, because it's been a while, and it's
Uh-huh.
nice to do some new things. So we're going to be introducing some new colors, some new murals. I've got, some fun little project. We've started already. So
Oh yeah,
I've
give us
got
a tour.
these barrel lights up in the corner.
Oh, those are
So
cool.
yeah, so I mean, it kind of goes with our, whole desert theme, Dry
Hmm.
Point Distillers. I grew up going out in the desert, and what do you see when you're out in the desert? And you see succulents hanging out, you see animal skulls, and you see rusty pieces of metal shot full of bullet holes. So
Love
that's what
it.
these are. Yeah. So we're trying to, just these ideas that I have, I don't necessarily consider myself an artist, but this is my canvas. So I'm trying to make this into a space that I like to be, and I hope that the customers also like to be here as well.
Yeah, you're not going to do that. You're not going to cover that mural on the back, though, are
Oh,
you?
no, no, no.
Oh
That
no, no,
that
no.
that is a labor of love. No, we're going to be adding up some other stuff, because there's a lot of white space in the bar that can be
Yeah.
filled with cool stuff. So I'm real excited. The servers are real happy to be able to move smoother. I'm going to be able to add about 18 more seats in the bar,
Oh wow.
which will definitely help on our busy music nights and trivia nights. And so I think it's a good opportunity to kind of change things up and welcome some folks back that may have you know not been here for a little while.
Sure. No, and I think that's amazing. And just, way to go to where you're able to do this, right? Because we know that
Sure.
there are not a lot of businesses to do that. But, with your customer loyalty and the value of your product, in my volunteer job, I always get one of your special bottles,
Uh-huh.
as a gift, and that's our mutual friends, are big rye whiskey drinkers, and
Sure,
so
sure.
they're very excited. They're like, "Did you get Chris's stuff yet?"
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, hold on, I'll get it to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I love that too, because that's when you've made it, when it's just like, hey, have you gotten that Dry Point stuff yet?
Yeah.
So I can't wait to celebrate you, because we're going to be doing other things once you reopen and get, all the renovations fixed, all the renovations done. We're going to do a ribbon cutting. We're going to do some fun
Sure.
stuff at Dry Point, and I can't wait. So it's so lovely. Thank you for giving us a sneak peek today. If
Hmm.
you'd like to go to Dry Point Distillery, all the information, their location, and all that stuff is either above or below, all depending on what platform you're looking at. We'll have updates for you on the opening, reopening. Well, you'll still be open. You're just going to kind of,
Yes.
when the construction is complete.
Sure.
We will do all sorts of stuff for that. So Chris, it was so lovely talking with you, and thank you for taking the time out of your day. And I can't wait to see the finished product there at Dry
Yeah.
Point Distillers.
Thanks, Carrie. Yeah. I'm real happy to be here.
All right, we'll see you soon.
All right.
All right,
Bye.
bye.